Good morning, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Everybody's feeling a little love today. All right. Well, nasty sell-off yesterday, big gap down. Prices moved down to support. Got the bounce, and now we'll see what happens. Probably going to chop around, I assume, today, maybe into until the economic reports later in the week. So prices are up into this resistance. You can see on the pre-market chart here, this little consolidation just up above. So kind of gapping up to yesterday's high. And a little bit of a surprising move, I guess, at the end of the day there. Short covering. It isn't an uptrend. I was a little surprised it didn't tag the 20 MA when it got so close, but it was down on this little pivot you can see on the hourly chart there. The 20 MA, it's a little bit lower. Sometimes they just break through the low. Doesn't always happen. So buyers stepped up a little early. It was a big gap down. It was a very big gap down. And then, came down here, filled the gap, and bounced a little in the morning, back down here. So I think it's likely to stay within this range. Now that it's gapped up, you got this will become a pivot. It'll be marked as a pivot. So two reference there for prices to hold. And it's, if it comes down, that's a pretty decent size move down from where it's starting the day. If it should get down there to expect a bounce. If it moves up, this resistance area, give or take. And what would be a big surprise is if it filled the gap after such a big move down. So I think that's unlikely. You typically get a gap up after a stretched move like this in an uptrend. It's not uncommon. We'll see where this goes today. SPX, doesn't always look like SPY, of course, but bottoming tail bar, back down to the pivot. It hit this area, closed that gap, and so now plenty of resistance there. By SPY, it's opening out in that area. So 515 looks like a good place. If it moves up at the open, probably could get a little bit more. But you got a nice consolidation there of resistance. Ideally being above the whole number, which so far it is. That's what you want to see. So 5,000 was a resistance point, which it got through. It slashed right through it like it wasn't there on the gap down. So it's a reasonable assumption to think if it comes up there, that would be a level that it would have a tough time getting through. So especially since it was lined up. This is where it was chopping around last week at 5,000. And then eventually it broke out. So, coming up into that area, there should be sellers. And I think just based on the structure that we see right now, probably going to be within a trading range. Even if it gets a little above 5,000, probably gets rejected and comes back down. And so for now, I'm thinking it stays within this range. And so the downside, is right at this bottom strike for now. But if things start selling off, by the time they open, this number it'll move down. So you always got to keep an eye on these things. They move pretty fast. But realize it's still in an uptrend. And again, that didn't hit that 20. Was a little surprised it got close, but it couldn't do it. So uptrend, it's bullish uptrend on the weekly chart. At the end of the day on Friday, we'll see if we've got a red bar. And is it down below 4,900? We've got 3 days of trading and options expiration, more economic news. So we're pretty far from wherever this thing might be in the next 3 days. The trend remains up. Major support is down here, but it should not get down there. So as we look at this chart, say, all right, bottoming tail bar, does it break the low today? Does it get above the high? Where does it close? Again, I think it puts us within a trading range for the next day or so. Q's had this big gap down, sliced through this minor support area. That did tag the 20 MA, which was lined up with these two pivots. So anytime we're using a moving average as a reference point, first, is it an uptrend? Is it a downtrend? Is the moving average rising? Is it flat? Is it look like a sine wave up and down? But that was a rising 20 MA, prices coming down to it. Price support aligned with that was a reasonable thought that prices could bounce from there. And they did early in the morning, and then it gave it back in the afternoon, retested. And of course, the bounce into the close. And it was a little above yesterday's high, but now it's right at yesterday's high. So the same thing. I think it's going to chop around here. You got this resistance and support likely to stay in a range here for today. Transports. It got shellacked pretty good. And the conversation we've been having about, weekly being extended, daily, this isn't that tight as some stocks are that we've looked at that got clobbered yesterday. But part of the thought was, will this continue to go higher even though this was extended, or will this become an M top? And we still got 3 days to go. If it looks like this on Friday, well, that increases our bias that it's an M top, and then of course we'd see if it breaks the low. And Qs, we looked at Qs. Oh, IYT, it's got the extra stocks in there. So this has been in an uptrend. It cleared the high. It's got those extra 30 stocks in there. But that gap down, same story there. It held up, open gap up there, probably stays in a range. IWM. That was maybe one of the most nasty gaps. It held support, so a little bit of a positive there. Those pivots, again, looking to the left. It held that area. We'll see where this ends on Friday. Gap up, same story. The top of yesterday's range suggests being range bound until the markets quiet down. Everybody gets to see, is it going to stay low? How much is it going to rally? So obviously a lot of uncertainty after the economic news and the gap. Things were looking pretty solid, that they could go up. We knew based on internals and some stocks that were extended that, things could retrace, but of course it didn't suggest the gap down, the magnitude of what happened yesterday. So a lot of uncertainty. We'll see where it goes. Semiconductors that were leading, we had the big gap down. NVIDIA held up pretty good. Actually was green on the day and rallied. So, big gap. And again, we'll just have to see, does this recover and eventually shake this off because it's in a strong uptrend? Or, do we get a red bar at the end of the week and then does it pull back? We're taking off a lot to violate this uptrend. So there's a lot of, chopping around that could happen here that could eventually result in repairing the damage. And it's going to take a little time. Futures got big wide range bars. Well, it doesn't look that big, but you got this breakout and the failure. It's still an uptrend. Tag the 20. Same thing. Support that we looked at yesterday. Held up. S&Ps came down toward the moving average. Pivots were lined up there, bounced up. Now it's coming up to minor resistance. It's backed off from there. You can see the little head and shoulders that's going on. We'll see if that breaks one way or the other. If it can hold up here, so what I would start thinking is if it was to hold up here, say we get into 10 o'clock or so, and it starts inching up above this 5,000, there is a void up above. So we'll see. Right now it's stopping right where it should. It's at a whole number and chopping around at that resistance area. Let me go here, see if this is marked up the continuous contract. So maybe the Dow, which came down pretty darn hard, maybe as far as if things are going to move higher, this might be the better choice. It's got that pivot there. I don't know how much of effect. You never know how much of an effect it'll have, but again, if it could go sideways for a little while, it just does open up the door to a little bit of a move up into that wide range bar. Let's see here, that's at some resistance. It's repetitive, but everything moving in a similar way, we're going to get similar patterns, which is going to lead to similar expectations. This is at a whole number. I've never put much weight in that guy, Don, and what he has to say. I don't think he's a market mover like some of the others, these Fed guys that talk. I wouldn't not to ignore, but just what I've seen. Yeah. So as far as markets go, the same thing. The big news was the move in interest rates. And we talked about this you see the question marks, which way was going to go. We talked about the bullish price action. The news comes out and, wide range bar. That's an igniting bar, which suggests interest rates are going to go higher. So with that thought in mind, and you go and look at the dollar, they're not doing that much of anything today, but they're holding up pretty well. And then you look at the dollar and, it's up. So markets got extended, giant gap, uncertainty, what's going to happen. But overall, things look more bearish than they have been. And we'll see how this is continues to move up. Markets are holding up here in light of that. We'll see what happens. Just look at this euro. They were holding up at this low. That low right there. And now another break. So unless this turns into being a bullish 180, and I've got no reason to think it would be, because you just don't until it happens, because that's a bearish bar breaking down. This would be supporting of it going lower. And if this is, and the dollar's going up and the interest rates are going up, it's a little bit of an ominous outlook for the broader markets after, we do get the expected choppy action because of the uncertainty. Unless there's a miracle recovery, it does suggest the markets are going to go lower, based on interest rates and the dollar. And we talked about, even last week or the beginning of this week, what the hell's going on with the 13-week, that was holding here and starting to inch up. So, it's backed off here a little bit, but no matter where we look, whether you're managing $1 billion hedge fund or your personal account, right now you got to be looking at this as, hey, we need a little more information to see what's going to play out here. We've seen markets in a bullish market, recover from days like yesterday, but it's yet to be seen. Bitcoin continues to rip, chopped around there. It certainly looks like it's going higher. It stalled at those pivots, and now it just looks like it's on its way to 60,000, give or take. Unless there's some kind of nasty reversal, the assumption is it's going to continue to go higher. Gold, obviously, it's just been nothing for a while, so that's a stay away. Silver, you know, closer to support for now. That's a stay away. And I guess the takeaway from this is, be nimble today. Odds are things aren't going to move very much until we get into the further reports later in the week. And yeah, pick your day trades. It's typing to me, his internet just went down. I don't know if he's in here or what he was going to cover. He's not in here now. And he's been having a lot of internet problems lately. What can you do? Well, let me see. As far as opens go, that he would have covered. Wow, weekly options trader doesn't have any, has one trade open. Well, after a move like that, you're going to get some settling down. A bull call credit spread, 120, 123, 120. It was kind of tight. Anyway, yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Comcast, I mean, I've never used Comcast, but they do not have a good reputation. I mean, as far as I know, he could use his hotspot, which we both use T-Mobile, and it works really well. But he works off of that laptop, which is kind of a miracle that he does all the updates that he does to all the trades off of that laptop. I've always told him, get one of those docking stations and hook up a couple of 27-inch monitors to it, because having that extra room, especially if you have to go to a hotspot, you can. I mean, mine works. I can have TC 2000 open and a few things, and there's enough bandwidth there to operate off of that laptop. Anyway, so where is this here? Retake. Yeah, credit spreads, they are what they are, man. They always make you sweat. You want things to just continue, but overall, like this expires the 16th, so a couple of days of hopefully it just backs off. Yeah, I know you could add one monitor, Alex. I didn't know you could add more than one monitor, but maybe you can with today's laptops. I mean, I've got a couple of ports, but I mean, I've got a docking station and four 27-inch monitors connected to my laptop, so I've got a very nice backup if with monitors room to operate, even with off of a hotspot. Let's see. Block. We'll put credit spread. Oh, that is up here. Nothing wrong there. No AN. Long stock. Can't tell. It looks like that's up a little bit, but tough to tell there. Stop 1537. Got lucky on that one. Real lucky. We'll see where that goes. JBHT. I don't know where that is. That recovered very nicely. It was long stock. TBH. Long stock. Looks great. This is not so nice to sit through, but hey, we'll see where it goes. I don't know where it is. I don't usually use, I close this down when the market opens. Well, when Dan starts talking, I always close this down and open it up on my other computer. Well, nice recovery. I don't see nothing moving around there. So that looks like that looks great. I mean, you think about what happened in the market, and you see some charts that look like this, and it's in the transports. It looks great. What else? DVH looks fine. Q. I don't like that's pretty erratic. Stop 41. Well, that's like hoping to get lucky. Trading range now. Looks like he's getting back in here. RCL. I don't hear him talking. Do you hear Dan talking?
Yeah, I'm back. That was a 5 minute blip, whatever. All right. I don't know what you've been doing,
Covered
but
your credit spread and up to RCL on open positions from the top down.
oh yeah, I start unless I have an alarm going off, I just go right to gaps and I don't have any alarms going off. Yeah, RC, I mentioned yesterday doing new shorts was not easy. That big old gap. Like you were just day trading. And you can see why. It's a big gap up here, but yeah, RCO was actually the only short we put on. That's it for a new position. We're playing defense. YouTube asking about DIKT short. Sure. Yeah, particularly if it doesn't gap up. Same thing we said, well, opposite what we said yesterday, Raul. Anything not gapping down was relative strength. So now anything not gapping up is relative weakness. So if this opens flat or up, just a few pennies, then sure, definitely short. Well, I see it 8 cents here. Let me set an alarm at 7:45. But definitely. All right, earnings. This was last night. But yeah, all these Bitcoin stocks are ripping here. Bitcoin 51.6. So the ETFs, the stock Hood had earnings, which is an additional, there's nothing to do with that. But this was a beautiful, beautiful kind of W bottom breakdown failure right here with a buy setup weekly lift. We're talking about, they misdirected some earnings thing, but that's what we call a pro gap. I had this on my core long list on this green bar right here, and it got sloppy. But look at the monthly. So now we got a big old downside shakeout. So it's just a matter of trying to get on board. But that's a pro gap right there. I'll put that in the window. I gave a big list of credit spread ideas because I went through earnings here, and I posted again here for you. For those of you who came in late, there's a watch list. Here's one of them, a bear call credit spread. Gapping down to that's a that's a nasty gap breakdown. So that's a short watch and a call spread watch. Same with Airbnb, bearish gap under these two green bars. EQT, bearish downtrend. That's just nasty downtrend daily, weekly. It's a matter of getting an intraday pattern. MGM 44 and change gap, trading range now. Cart gapping down 26, gapping right to yesterday's low. So that's bearish. They added to the group of companies that are doing some layoffs. A lot of Qs. All four horsemen are holding incredibly well on the 5 minute charts here. AIG put spread idea. Zulu put spread if there's any juice. Mod G. Opening, well, it's opening down here. This is kind of a rounded bottom as opposed to a V bottom, which would make it a better short setup. But 30-minute low, if it can't bounce, short idea. And nothing, not 30-minute low, short idea, high NVH. Opening flat, no patterns, kind of getting extended. Akamai 120, call spread idea, if any juice. Hotel Echo, flat open, no interest. GoDaddy 111. It's, gapping has nothing to do with that. 30-minute low, maybe call spread. Let's see a gap. Well, $90, bullish gap, put spread idea, if there's any juice. Stag, small gap, breakdown failure, put spread idea. Same, well, I don't see any currents, but if ENTG gaps up, then same. VGR, inside bar, no interest. Bravo Lima 53. It's an ugly gap in the middle of nowhere land. I don't know what it's going to do. Zulu Golf, put spread idea, bullish gap. Look at the monthly. That's a nice monthly. Now it's gapping to resistance here daily, weekly, but this monthly could go to $80. Let me see if I have that on my core watch list. I do not. That's a new addition, Zulu Golf. Here, let me give you this list too. I haven't updated it in a while, but a week or so, but there you go. ADC. I don't see any prints, pattern, DVA. Shoot, the gap's too big now. I was hoping it was going to open at 116. Then it'd be a nice gap breakout of this kind of pseudo 1, 2, 3. But now the gap's too big. There's a nice gap, 62.50. 30-minute high, that looks great. Let me put that in this window. I have QDEL in another chart. AKR, no gap, no pattern. Mirage. I see one gap up here, but if it negates the gap, this has a big void. Well, now look, it just printed there. So I was about to set an alarm at 9:50, but now look at the gap. Messed it up. A den alarm just went off that I set yesterday. All right, that's gaps messing it up. No interest. Resi capping at 1870, bullish gap. Watch that on a pullback. Resi. KTOS, gap's too big. GXO, range bound. ITA, up alarm. We have this in our ETF letter. Let me just set a new alarm higher now. Yeah, Alex, good job. I was with you as a short for a day trade yesterday. Right when it started coming down here, when the spiders started rallying. I mean, I was I don't hide anything, but yeah, I didn't trust it as a swing because of the igniting bar yesterday, but you took the risk and you're getting paid for it, so good job. Tick over 1100. A D line was under negative 2100 all day yesterday. Now it's gapping up to 1500. So this is an amazing change of bullishness overnight. And it's a little amazing to me that, bonds ain't budging. I see lift ripping here, but I just can't chase it. I mean, it's $3.50 divided by 12 is a monster gap, but I like the monthly. All right, RCL up alarm. We shorted that. Not liking it. Just let it play out. We did a 120, 120 call spread. All right, let's see, DVA bottom right, too big, SSNC, middle chart, slopping around, no hurry. GNRC, I personally did a short straddle. And the options aren't open right now because they're still showing the closing price. I did the 101, 148. So as soon as this jerk market maker finishes his coffee and opens up the options, then hopefully I can get out at a dime or so. Angie, maybe bottoming pattern, but too slow for me. IAC gap to resistance, QDEL. Wow. Oh, that's the one I said excessive gap. But wow, look at that volume in 3 minutes. It's almost at yesterday's volume. That is nasty, nasty volume of people selling, even at that price. Olsen gap too big. Quersure, no pattern. It's actually a bearish bull sandwich on the weekly. 10, no pattern. BFAM, there's a pro gap over 2 red bars, bullish weekly, monthly, but I don't chase. Sony and ADR, I saw it gapping up here to 98 this morning, so that failed. CME, put spread idea. I'll look right now on 205. It's freaking church. GNRC still isn't open for business. Unless did it report on? There we go. Now he finally woke up. All right, now the midpoint just dropped to 35 cents. I sold him for $1.05, but I want more. The spreads are still big. All right, so CME 205s, 10 cents by 40 for Friday. We'll come back to it. There's a gap breakdown. KHC is ugly. WMB. That I also had as my bullish gap list. So that, oh, I lost my pre-market. That's why. Because yeah, look at that. Look at that. It was 34.60, which is why I had it as a put spread watch. Sting. Yes, let it settle down. Set an alarm at 69. VST, yep, I remember you mentioned that yesterday. I liked it. So WMB, it's ugly change. IQV, that's a very bullish gap and go. That's bullish daily, weekly, monthly. I just don't play that game with those big old gaps. But that's me. Millennium strong uptrend, all time frames. Wow. Man, that is a power downtrend on gold. All right, so now GNRC, it's mid 25. Let's see if we can get out of 20, be done with them. Yeah, I'm out for 20. I should have bid 15. I'm done with GNRC. GMAR, that's having a bad month. Oscar Charlie, nothing. Curl, there you go. There's 30-minute high. All right, DVA is too big. Let me put curl here. Let me check 217 puts. The two 20 puts are 20 by 420.